Okay, we're going to start an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff to have a really fun follow-up for you guys from the Swatch brand. A little bit about them. They were founded back in 1983, and Blancpain, their collaborator here, was founded back in 1735. Blancpain is now part of the Swatch group, and it's within their premium luxury tier. Now, in terms of the type of watch, I consider this a wild card watch. Some key characteristics into language. We're looking for something within this space. Of course, you're going to want something with pretty eccentric styling, with a clear commitment to theme execution, normally trading off versatility, for wrist presence and bold aesthetics. This is the bioceramic Scuba 50 Fathoms Ocean of Storms, and it's honoring the original 50 Fathoms, which is widely accepted as the first true dive watch. Huge shout out to Artem Straps out of Adelaide, Australia, for inspiring this particular segment, which is a follow-up where we kind of dress up this watch in a couple of expensive premium strap options to key into that premium Blancpain aesthetic. These watches go for $400 retail, and I don't recommend anybody paying above retail, because I think a lot of the value comes from that boutique exclusive experience of picking it up in person, waiting in line, the excitement, all of the fanfare that goes with that, I think is where you're going to derive the most value, because it's going to give you, many smiles per gallon, versus if you were to just overpay for this and then have somebody ship it out to you, and then ultimately you're just going to be kind of let down. The way I really look at this piece is that it is a really genius piece of marketing memorabilia that just happens to be able to tell time. I don't consider it a competitive wristwatch against any other watches that are out on the market today, or at least most of them. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, so as you can see, the easiest thing to do is really just swap in a new NATO strap. Now, the one that this came on was actually pretty decent quality, a little bit overly thick for me anyway. Like the stitching on here, like the knit is a bit loose. I shouldn't say the stitching, but the weave pattern is a bit loose, which makes it feel a bit bulky. And then also, these aren't super confidence inspiring hardware choices in terms of that bioceramic material. It is nicely signed, nicely designed, and everything like that. I think that is very cool. But some people find this aesthetic to be a little bit too loud, a little bit too kind of childish, just because it's just, a bit bright and kind of loud, right? So the easiest thing to do is just weave in a premium strap here. So you guys can see, this is pretty nice. This is actually from Artem Straps as well. This is it's pretty cool the way they do the sizing for these NATOs, is that this is listed as a 21 to 22. So this will fit 21 millimeter lugs and 22 millimeter lugs. It's the Artem black nylon strap for $63, and it is, and of course, in a NATO style. And it was really easy to do, and I think it looks good. Check it out. Here, I've done full reviews of not only the watch, but these straps and whatnot too. So if you guys want to get into more details, you guys can see nicely signed hardware. You got the floating keeper here, you have the fixed keeper, and then you have the signed keeper down below. Traditional dual pass style there. So then that way, if things do fail, which you have actually screw in spring bars. So there's no spring to them. They're just screw in bars. If those were ever to fail, you still have a closed loop system, and then also there'll be no sliding around because you do have this extra piece here. So not too shabby at all, but let's actually demo this for you real quick, since this is more of a strap showcase. You guys can see really nice, a little bit more sedate, of course, for the black there. The Artem actually does have other options as well, but the black is very, very clean, and I can't really argue with it, right? I do have a slightly larger wrist, so this sliding keeper, instead of it being there to help fold this down, what I'll do is I'll just fold this back in towards itself and just leave a little rolled edge there. so you guys can see, nice and clean. I'll leave this here to kind of keep that tidy. And there you have it. Just let's move those guys and check this out. Here we go. Very clean. So if you do want to maybe just tone things down, you can absolutely just throw it on another NATO style nylon strap. Very clean. Unfortunately, one of the things that you're not going to remedy is going to be the thickness there, because you still have extra layers underneath. Now the thickness on here is actually 14.5 millimeters. So it is a bit on the thicker side, considering that it's not super water resistant at just 50 fathoms or 91 meters. So one of the things you can do is, let's say, try out something like this combination, which this is a two-piece setup. This is kind of this is their newest release from Artem, and this is their most premium to date. This is the Artem HydroFlex. It goes for $218, and they also add in this black DLC pin buckle, which actually doesn't cost anything additional, which is nice. It also comes with quick release spring bars, but I had to remove those so that I can go ahead and pair it here. So with that said, let's actually I won't bore you with me swapping everything out, but we'll get it swapped out and take a look. Okay guys, so automatically one of the best things about this particular type of setup on a two-piece is you're going to be able to now fully enjoy that really fun display case back. No, it's not some crazy hot horology movement. It's all made by machines, but you know what? It didn't stop them from printing on a picture of the moon, of course, with a nod to the fact that the ocean that this represents is an ocean on the moon. And then you can see here the cool clear floating rotor, where you do have that little information, which is a whole lot of fun to look at. And then of course you're automatically getting more thinness, because this is going to be laying flat on your wrist, which is actually pretty awesome. You can see this is all black stitch, black on the underside, FKM rubber. On the top side, you're getting that synthetic sailcloth, signature look from Artem. You're getting this really high quality finishing there. You can literally see the high polished bevels shining through that beautiful diamond-like carbon coating. So very nice, nicely signed. Very clean. You're getting a fixed keeper, you're getting a floating keeper, and I think it looks great, guys, just like you would imagine. It's not super affordable, again, at $218, but man, is it handsome. And again, you go back to the cost of the watch itself for what it is. Also not the most cheap, but also it is being itself, and it's not necessarily chasing a particular audience. It's really creating something that was fun, and for those it resonates with, that's great, and for those that it doesn't, hey, that's great too. But we'll go ahead and get it on the wrist here, and although I do have a slightly larger 7.5-inch wrist here, you guys can see I'm down to the last couple holes on this strap. So that's one of the things that does hold me back on these new straps, because they are a little bit short. But man, for those of you who have smaller wrists than 7.5 inches, you're going to love the fact that there's not going to be a bunch of extra tail hanging out. So people will probably really rejoice and not ask for a longer strap. But if it was me, I'd absolutely make this just a little bit longer, or just have an extra large option. You guys can see lays really beautifully. Of course, if I do get my watch a bit too close to the camera lens there, it's going to give you a bit of perspective distortion. It's going to make it seem a lot bigger than it really is. So what I like to do is keep my wrist nice and low here, and then just tighten up the frame so that you guys can get still a detailed look at the watch, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio. Check that out. Really, really nice. Those undercuts, they work. The contouring, it doesn't feel as top heavy, as unstable, sitting on top of multiple layers of nylon. So I think this is great, really nice. And of course, because it is a standard two-piece layout, it is going to be able to, lay out flat if you wanted to lay it out flat for storage or anything like that. But what we have next, of course, is what is my favorite strap that Artem make, which is going to be their loopless sailcloth. So with that said, let's actually get it swapped out and, and see how this actually comes together, which I have a distinct suspicion that I'm really going to love this. All right, guys, so I think this is going to take the cake here. Absolutely gorgeous. You see this nice closed loop system. You still get to enjoy the thinness. You also get to check out the case back, displaying that fun movement with all the commemorative printing on there. And yeah, it's cool. Is it cheap? No, absolutely not. I mean, the watch itself isn't cheap. I mean, is it relatively affordable at $400? Sure, but for what it is, it's quite expensive for $400 considering it's not steel, the movement isn't serviceable. It's definitely more so something that's going to be replaceable. But at the same time, not everything you buy is something you're going to pass down to your kids. Some things are perishable, right? An expensive pair of shoes, a watch strap. These are all perishable items, right, that'll eventually get worn out. But it doesn't mean you don't like having nice stuff just because it's not going to last forever. And for me, this combination is really great. And actually, for anybody who maybe is watching this video before seeing my full review, I guess we can go over some quick specs here. So here you're going to be 40.5 millimeters in diameter, but then across the bezel, it's going to be about 42 millimeters, 14.5 millimeters thick. And then in terms of lug to lug, 47.7. You do also get 120 click, rotating with really great acoustics and tactile engagement, maybe a slight little rock to it there, but again, surprisingly good in terms of that engagement. Ooh. So quite nice. Also loomed, as you guys will see here in a bit. And then the movement, again, display, which is great. 91 meters of water resistance, 90-hour power reserve, 3 hertz. So that's going to be a 21,600 vibration per hour beat rate. It also has an anti-magnetic Nivacron hairspring, which is also another bonus. You have applied indices, really outstanding lume that's grade A Superluminova sun ray dial, which really helps elevate the overall look of just the watch itself. And then it really opens the door for you to elevate it more by pairing it with a really handsome strap. And I just love that this is just bolted in, really beautiful and really sturdy. Although, I mean, the case probably has more of a chance to break before the bars do. There's just something about this combination that I really like, that DLC coated Omega style deployant clasp. And you don't have to buy the clasp from them. Any Omega style deployant will work, and some of them are even more expensive and more advanced. You can get like ones with micro adjustments from a brand like Formex. So you can really turn this thing up even higher. But for me, I think this is the level that I'm really going to enjoy it. So with that said, I can demo putting it on the wrist. I just open that up, put my hand through, click that nicely, beautifully secured. Check that out. Really, really nice. Of course, again, you don't want to get it too close to the camera lens because then it's just going to make everything look a bit larger. So I'll keep my wrist nice and low, tighten things up here. And let's check this out, guys. Ooh. Yeah, the black on black appeal is still there. But I think the nice thing is you now get a little pop though with the gray stitching versus the black, or if you were to choose white, it might pop a little too much, or maybe that's your style. But for me, I wanted to kind of tie into some of the gray tones, the black on black hues, without making it just too shouty, because I think really the thing that's my favorite part about this particular combination is how sleek it is and how understated it is, right? Like, that is a good looking setup. Like, hey, you're ready to go out to your next local watch meet with this fun thing on one wrist and then maybe a serious watch on the other. But yeah, that actually wears pretty nicely. Check that out. Look at the way it lays on the wrist there. Great contours, very comfortable, especially now that you've removed that extra bit of material between your wrist and the case back. So everything is laying really nice. So very cool. But with that said, let's actually work in some loom shots and low light transition just for fun. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Yes, nice grade A loom, well applied. Again, there are some things that this has some real shortcomings around this watch, but there are some things where it excels, and this loom is absolutely a strong point. But one thing I always like to work in is a bit of a low light transition, because you're not just going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming in and out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it is nice to see what these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting, to maybe include a bit of harsh lighting, which typically would expose any types of production defects. But all you're going to notice here is, yes, a nice high definition shot thanks to some 4K action there. But yeah, there's not really much of a finish on that bioceramic. It is all kind of matte finished. And again, guys, remember this, there is a full review on my channel, as well as like a short if you want to see the day I picked this up. But man, this is just, you add in that strap, right, that sailcloth, it looks beautiful, guys. It just plays really well. And yeah, I think at the end of the day it gets you one step closer, it inches you closer to a Blancpain 50 Fathoms, or at least in that, you know, from afar type of category, right? But man, it just looks good. It feels great on wrist. Now it does anyway, now thanks to it sitting nice and tidy on your wrist. And of course, you're stepping it up with some premium products that are not cheap and not for everyone. Just like the watch isn't for everyone, just like not every product is for everyone. So I'm digging it though. For those of you that do collect these watches, I highly recommend any one of these Artem straps. I think it's just kind of a cool place in the market. Again, the straps were inspired by the Blancpain OEM straps, and then of course this watch was inspired by the Blancpain 50 Fathoms, and the Swatch group was able to put something together to make that a little bit more accessible for folks and a little bit more fun. So, you know, hey, it's nice to have fun watches in the collection. And yeah, this one is just not only fun to wear, it's fun to look at, and it's fun to talk about with your fellow enthusiasts. Some people will talk trash and they won't like it. Some people will talk about how genius it is and how it is now such a huge part of the cultural zeitgeist, and a much higher quality follow-up to the Moon Swatch than a lot of people were expecting ultimately for not that much more money. So guys, closing thoughts. Again, it's just too tall and bulky on that OEM strap, but really balances out nicely on these Artem solutions, and it also, you know, just feels overall more elevated in terms of the aesthetic and even the on the wrist experience. In terms of model variants, this is of course available in the original 5 variations, one to represent each ocean on Earth, and then this one represents an ocean on the moon. And then in terms of comparables, not really too much out there. Again, this is more a piece of marketing memorabilia than a daily wearable wristwatch, so I'm not really sure what you'd cross shop this against if you were looking for a watch, you know, more from some of the more traditional wants and needs when you're purchasing a watch, versus something that this is, you know, purely about fun and you know, and that piece of it, right? More of a conversation piece than a timepiece ultimately, and I'm fine with that. Also, you know, most other 50 Fathoms homages will have better value. They'll be better built, better specs, but they just won't have the Blancpain name on the dial, which makes this, again, it's fun because part of luxury is going to be branding. So for me, guys, the bottom line is this release really piqued my interest and the buying experience won me over. The energy in the line was really great, and feeling that feeling that it captured acquiring one of these was actually really satisfying, surprisingly so, especially considering the price point, right? For $400 plus tax here in California, it was a really satisfying purchase. It was a lot of fun. So the cost to smile ratio of the Thrifty Fathoms is pretty miraculous. And again, I definitely recommend purchasing these at retail if you don't live near Swatch boutique that carries these. Then I understand if you have to go purchase elsewhere and have somebody ship to you. Hopefully you're not buying from some scalper who's marking it up an exorbitant amount. I understand, hey, it's a free market and maybe you just want to make a little bit for your trouble waiting in line or something like that. That's fair as well. But guys, for me, when I got this watch, I did have the idea of pairing it to an Artem strap, so it's really nice to finally get these all in, test it out, try it out with you guys. Let me know what your guys' favorite combination was. Big shout out to Artem Straps for always supporting the channel, and yeah. Big shout out to Adelaide, Australia, and the makers of the world's finest sailcloth strap. So let me know if you guys liked the video. If you did, hit like. If you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.